So, hey guys, welcome back to my podcast where we talk about all things Barry. Let's get into another episode. the reason why the reason why I'm sighing is because it's just a lot. This show is a lot. I know you're probably like, if it's so much, why do you watch it? Because I can't stop watching it. That's why. Don't try to come for me. Um, but thankfully, I feel like this episode wasn't as crazy as last episode, so I'm not like hyperventilating over episode 3. But still there's still some things that happened, and I feel like it's definitely setting us up for what's to come, and whatever is going to come is not going to be good. I'll just say it like that. So yeah, but before I even talk about, what happened in the episode, I did want to say that I noticed um, people, because what I'll usually do is I'll watch the episode and then I'll immediately go to Twitter right after, because that's just kind of my place to talk about TV shows and movies and stuff. And a lot of my Barry mutuals are on Twitter. And so I feel like it's more fun to be on there and talk about the latest episode. So what I'll do is I'll watch it. I'll go on Twitter and put my little 2 cents in, and I'll see what other people are saying about it. And so I noticed quite a few people were saying that this episode, episode 3, was not that great, or they were saying, this wasn't as good as last episode, or this has been the worst episode so far this season. And I feel like people are saying that because, you know, season 3 just started off with a bang, and then it didn't let up episode 2. Like, we already know what happened in episode 2, where he blew up at Sally, and just so many other things that happened. And so I feel like with this episode being, I guess, a little bit calmer, I'm not sure if that's the right word. I just feel like not as much has happened in this episode compared to the first 2 episodes. So I think people were kind of expecting maybe more of that this episode, and so when it seemed to kind of like be a little bit calmer, kind of died down a little bit. I think people were kind of like, "Oh, this episode wasn't that great." So, yeah, I guess, what do you guys think? I don't feel like the episode was bad at all. I don't even feel like it was what, some people call um certain episodes like filler episodes, where they're like, oh, they just put this episode in here and it didn't really like move the story forward. I don't feel like that. I definitely feel like I said, I feel like it's setting up things for what's to come, maybe even next episode, or just in the near future. I think we had some significant scenes in this episode, so I definitely don't think it was just put in there just because. I really don't think that they, I feel like the writers and everybody that's a part of the show would not put out an episode just to put out, an episode, if it didn't make sense to the story and if it didn't move the story along. So, I really think that's what it is. I don't know. What do you guys think? If you've seen the latest episode, do you feel like it wasn't that great, or do you feel like it was just a filler episode? Because I don't think so. And I know you're probably like, well, you're biased because you love the show, but yeah, I really don't think so though. I would be honest if I felt like the episode was bad. I don't think it was bad at all. But I just noticed quite a few comments like that. I won't say a lot of people, because I feel like that's exaggerating it, just from what I've seen on Twitter and just on social media in general. People are kind of like, no, I didn't really care for this episode, but I don't know, maybe I'm sure that will change when episode 4 comes out next week. But for those who don't know, new episodes of Barry are on Sunday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and then 10 p.m. Eastern time, I think. Double check that just to be sure. And then, of course, you can stream the episodes on HBO Max. That's how I watch the show. And then, I've talked to people who are in like different countries and they don't have HBO, or they don't have HBO Max, and they're like, shoot, I get a link to it just so I can watch the episode when it airs. So there's plenty of ways to watch it. You just have to look for it. But yeah, so that's how I watch it. And yeah, let's get into the episode. So if you guys have been listening to my podcast, or if you've been following my podcast, this is episode 5 for me. How is this 5 episodes already? I don't know. But usually what I'll do is I'll start off when I'm recapping an episode. I'll usually start off with like the opening shot, because I feel like the opening shot and then the way the episode ends is usually pretty significant, especially for this show. I feel like there's always some kind of thought behind it, or I feel like there's usually intention behind it or something like, I feel like it signifies, what's going to be happening in the episode or what's to come. And so I like kind of like focusing on what we see as an audience when the episode first starts and then the way it ends. So, episode 3 starts off with Kusino and Barry. They're on set. They're working on the show. I think it's called Laws of Humanity or something like that. So this is following up from episode 2 where Barry got that audition, and he pretty much was like, hey, like give my acting coach a spot too. And so they were like, okay, we'll let him be an extra. And so that's from that. So it's basically just following right after what happened episode 2. And so they're on set for the show and they're in their trailer, and Kusino and Barry are both like, they're like in the chair getting their makeup done, probably like getting ready for the scene. And his makeup artist, Kusino's makeup artist, is talking to him. And I think she's like, hey, do you have like kids, or, like, what's your backstory? And he's like, yeah, I have a son and a grandson. And he makes a comment. He says something like, they're living with me now because my son, I swear he said something like my son lost his job or something, or trying to, I guess, saying that his son is broke. And I'm not sure if that's true. I feel like it would be the other way around. I feel like Kusino would want his son and his grandson to live with him so he's not alone. Especially since Moss died. I think that he's been grieving and he's probably been feeling lonely. So I feel like that's kind of why they're living together. I could be completely wrong. Maybe it is because the son lost his job. I don't know, but and I also feel like too because they obviously got closer. Probably between season 2 and season 3, and after like everything that happened. If you guys don't know, in season 2, was that season 2? I think it was. Kusino and his son were estranged. So Kusino was never really like a father to his son. And when he showed back up, he was kind of like, trying to make amends with him. And at first the son was like, I don't want nothing to do with you. Like, you've been absent my whole life. Why are you trying to pop up now? And so obviously they're in a better place now where they, they're living together and they have a better relationship. And, yeah, so it's much different than what it was last season. But I feel like they live together probably because, like, I think Kusno, probably doesn't want to be alone. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, so while they're in the trailer, there are a couple people that come in. I think they're part of like casting directors or something like that, but they come in to talk to Kusino, and they're like, hey, we know, like, pretty much they're like, we know you're an extra and you were kind of just supposed to be there in the scene, but now we're going to give you, a line. We're going to give you a few lines to say. And you can tell Kusino's surprised because he's like, oh, you're giving me a line? Like, what? And then Barry makes the comment. He's like, just say thank you, Mr. Kusino, or something like that. And then it, cuts to like the the title where it just says Barry, and then it's like the little theme song. But I'm just like, see, this is already starting off a mess. I do think that this episode, like I said, was much more calm compared to episode 1 and 2, but I'm just like already starting off a mess. So there's that. That's the opening scene, that they're on set together and they're actually doing the show. And clearly Kusino does not want to be there. He does not want anything, like, he doesn't want to be a part of this. I mean, yes, he does want to act and everything, but not in this way. He doesn't want to be forced to do it because Barry is like threatened his family and is like, you're going to do this. And so, yeah, so I feel bad for Kusino because clearly he doesn't want to be there, but he's kind of just like, okay, I'll do it, just being, you could just tell he's like forced into it basically. And then, yeah, I feel like this episode too, a lot of the main characters were all in like very different places. Like I said, Barry and Kusino were on set of the show that they were going to film. Sally is doing her press junket because she's promoting her new show, Joplin. And I think that was last episode where they had told her, like, yeah, we're pushing up your press junket, so better be ready for it. And so clearly she's nervous about that. And then with Hank and Cristobal, we kind of still see that they're like, like their families are pretty much making it hard for them to be together. And I still am so sad about that. Like, why would you give us Hank and Cristobal first episode and then take it away the very next episode? Why would you do that to the writers of Barry? Why would you do that? That's very cruel. And because, so many people were like excited and happy about that, and then they just took it away. But anyway, so they're still like, kind of not together. Like obviously they still love each other and they want to be together, but their families are preventing them from being together. And of course they don't even know that they were together. They just, their families are enemies. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet situation, which is I think what Bill and maybe like some of the other people that work on Barry have said. They kind of have, compared their relationship to that, which is not good because we all know how Romeo and Juliet ends. So that makes me scared for them, for both of them, honestly. But yeah, so they're kind of still in the same place where they're like, well, my family wants to come after your family and vice versa. And you can tell Cristobal is really just like, I want to keep Hank safe. And if that means not being together and me leaving, going back to Bolivia to be with my family, then, I think he would sacrifice and do that, which is sad. But also, that just shows how much he really cares about Hank. So, we kind of still see them kind of in that same position, but what ends up happening is Hank, which I knew that was going to happen. I was like, even though Hank is mad at Barry, like we saw him kind of like tell him off in the first episode, I was like, there's gonna be something where they're gonna end up working together. And I kind of figured it was gonna be Hank being like, hey, Barry, like, can you do me a favor? Or like, can you kill somebody for me? And that's exactly what happened. So he had a proposition for him, and at first Barry was like, no. And then of course that changed. And so now he's gonna do it. And he's kind of gonna go back into like being a hitman again, basically. Like, I mean, did he ever really stop? No, but um so yeah, I kind of knew that that was going to happen at some point. And then we see Fuchs. Fuchs was not really in, I don't think he was in last episode. So he's still in Chechnya. Um and we get a conversation over the phone between him and Barry. And it's funny, but it's also, again, I feel like a lot of stuff that happened in this episode in particular is setting up for what's to come. And again, I always say this, it makes me nervous. I'm frightened because I know whatever is coming is not good. So we get like a funny scene, funny like phone scene between them. But again, you could tell like, I mean, you just tell like Fuchs is really jealous. He's still really upset about everything that happened in season two. The way season two ended with the monastery shooting, and Barry was like legit about to kill Fuchs. Like he was coming after that man. And so now he's kind of like, oh, well, you're not coming after me anymore. Like you're not even thinking about me. Fuchs is kind of like, really? Like you're still trying to make up with Kusino and not me, so this clear jealousy there. And he's not saying that he's jealous, but it's so much more like, I don't know, I guess I could just see it so much clearer now. I feel like I didn't see that in season two when Barry was really getting close to Kusino. He was jealous back then, and I didn't see it until now where I'm like, oh yeah, he's clearly upset because he feels like, I did all the stuff for Barry. He's known Barry since he was a kid. He's like, I did all the stuff for you, and like I turned you into what you are now, like a hitman, and you tried to kill me and stuff, and you didn't even apologize, and now you're trying to like, be buddy buddy with Kusino again. You're not even trying to make up with me, so clearly he's in his feelings. And yeah, so there wasn't, I would say there wasn't really any type of like, I mean, unless I'm forgetting something, but there wasn't really any type of big like, oh my God moment like, last episode where Barry went off on Sally. But there's repercussions to that because now Katie, see, I think besides Hank and Cristobal, I feel like this is going to be my favorite storyline. But this storyline is already giving me heart palpitations because I'm really scared for Katie. Um, I feel like if she digs too deep into Sally and Barry's relationship or just too deep into Barry's past, I feel like that's going to get her killed. I didn't want to say it. I feel like she's going to DIE. If she does, remember that I said this. Remember, go, yeah, Tiffany said that early on. Yeah, because I was right. I hope she doesn't. I really don't want her to, but I don't know if her character is meant to be in the next season. Like, I'm not sure if her character is just going to be in season 3, or if if this storyline is going to kind of be pushed throughout season 3 and then going into season 4. I don't know, but if they wrap this up like at the end of season 3, then something's going to happen with her. I really feel like something's going to happen with her, and it makes me scared for her. I don't know what, but whatever it is, it's not going to be good. But before I get into what really was happening with Katie and kind of the significant scene that I was talking about earlier. I did want to let you guys know that my podcast is sponsored by Streann Media. So I am using Streann software. There's Streann Studio software to make my podcast. If you guys ever want to create your own podcast and you like to go live the way I do, you can definitely use it yourself. All you have to do is go to studio.streann.com. And then they'll ask you for your email. You put in your email, you get a little code, and then that's how you log in. So you don't have to worry about signing up or having a password or anything complicated like that. It's pretty easy to use, pretty simple. This is my 5th episode, so I haven't had any problems with it. It's really cool. From my end, I have, like, as a podcast host, I have all my features on the side. You guys obviously can't see it. I think I did, though. Last episode, I think I did say that I would show a little bit of what I could change. So let me do that. So if you guys have been watching my podcast, and I know this is probably weird for people who are not watching it, but just if they're just listening to me on Spotify or whatever, you're probably like, what are you talking about? Sorry, but you're just gonna have to listen. So I always have like a colorful background on here. I can change that. If I wanted to, I could change it to that. I can change it to this. I don't really like that one, but as you can see, I can change my background, and I'm doing it live right now. So if I needed to make edits or changes, I don't have to wait until the live stream is over. I can literally just edit right now. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then also, if you ever notice in the corner, I usually have the little Streann Media logo. I can change that as well. I like having this one up, though. That's why I always keep it at that. And I could even change my name if I wanted to. Obviously, it's easier for me to just go by Tiffany, just for you guys to call me that. But if I wanted to, I could just leave it as T, or I could do like TM, or I could add my last name. But yeah, I just like to keep it simple, keep it at Tiffany. And then I can also change the way my name looks too. I could change it to that. I don't know if you guys noticed that little shift. Watch again. There. And then I could even take the border off of it and make it plain. So you could do a lot of cool different stuff. And it, like I said, it's really easy. I'm not a techie person at all. And I think I've said this before. So if I'm telling you it's easy, I promise it is. I kind of relate it to like Zoom a little bit. If you've used Zoom or anything similar to Zoom, you could definitely use Streann Studio. So definitely check that out. And if you end up making your own podcast or doing your own content through Streann Studio, please reach out to me. Let me know, because I would love to support your content as well. And definitely tag Streann so they can see that you're using it. And yeah, let's get back into Barry. So let's get back to Katie, because like I said, this storyline is really dragging me in, or not dragging me in, I should say reeling me in, because I just feel like whatever outcome happens, it's just not going to be good for her. And I don't think it'll be good for Sally either, but I kind of feel like Katie will end up with the brunt of it. I don't know why. I just have a really bad feeling that Katie is going to end up if she keeps digging into this thing with Barry and Sally. If she doesn't, then maybe not. But I just feel like, because again, this is so early on in the season, she's already talking about like, hey, like this guy makes me uncomfortable. And she clearly sees how violent Barry is. And it's like nobody else around can see that but her. I really feel like that's going to make her push and be like, oh, like, hold on. Like, am I the only one seeing this? Like, do you guys see the type of guy that she's with, And again, I think it goes back to Katie. She really looks up to Sally. She admires her. And she's older than her. So of course she looks up to her and everything. She might even see her as a friend. I don't know. But I think when you have that type of situation as well, maybe she might try to protect her. I don't know. I just, oh God, I just hope and pray to God that Katie does not try to like confront Barry or to say anything to him, because he's crazy and he will kill you, girl. So do not do that. I'm saying that like she's a real person, but I'm really scared for her. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's really making me think, like, which way is this going to go? Is this going to end how I think it's going to end, or is this going to be continued into the next season? I don't know. If you guys watch the show, let me know what you think is going to happen with Katie. Not just with her character, but just do you think that she's going to do something stupid or do something unintentionally to harm Sally by like, digging into Barry's past or maybe saying something to him or to her? I don't know. My theory is that she might end up slipping and saying something to the media, or she'll say something to the wrong person and it'll get out that Sally is like with an abusive person, or that Sally is with somebody that's not good for her. And it's ironic because she's doing this TV show about domestic violence. And obviously, we all know how the media is. Like they take stuff and they run with it. So if something like that gets out about Sally, oh, I'm scared for her. I'm scared. I keep using that word, but I really am. I just feel like that would not only ruin her reputation and just her image, but I also think that that could like sabotage her TV show, because her TV show, I don't even think it's out yet. Like she's still promoting for it. And so oh God, I just really don't want something to get out about like what Barry did to, like, how he yelled at her in the office, or if somebody's like, yeah, I've seen him, if Katie's like, yeah, I've seen him do this or do that, especially if he does something else. Oh gosh, I don't know. I kind of feel like something is going to get out, or that she might say something to the wrong person. They're going to be like, oh, like, trying to get the scoop on Sally, and it'll just be like a train wreck for sure. But there's this really important scene, I feel like, in the episode where Katie is talking to Natalie, and before that, Sally invites Katie to the premiere. She's like, "Yeah, me and Barry are going in a limo. Like, if you want to come, like, join us." And you could tell Katie's kind of like, like, how do I say no? Because she's like, no, clearly because of Barry, but she's not going to tell Sally that. And so she's just kind of like, no, 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 thanks, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what she says, but she turns the invitation down. And Natalie overhears that. And so Natalie comes over and she's like, like when your boss invites you to the premiere with you, you don't decline that. Like you should say yes. Um, and Katie pretty much like tells her, like, it's not that I don't want to go, it's because Barry makes me uncomfortable. And Natalie, just kind of like everybody else, they don't see how violent Barry is, or if they do see it, it's like I don't know, they just make excuses for him basically. And they're like, and she's just like, no, like, Barry's not like that. I've seen him kind of get into his little moods before. Like he's yelled at us before in the acting class. Like it's, basically just saying it's not a big deal. He was just having a bad day. And it was kind of funny. Like that scene was kind of funny because Natalie's sort of that ditzy character. Like she kind of reminds me of like a kind of like Chrissy and Three's Company, if you guys know who I'm talking about. I mean, she's not like that dumb, but she says stuff sometimes and you're just like, like what? She's kind of like that kind of character. So for her to say that too, it was kind of funny coming from her. But at the same time, it's like sad because it's like, no, like it's not that he's having a bad day. He's just insane, you guys. And you're not saying that because you're too blinded by everything else that's going on. And yeah, so she tries to kind of like, just make excuses for him and tell Katie that it's fine, there's no big deal. And I think that made it worse for Katie. Like you could tell she doesn't say anything, but you could tell like in her mind she's probably thinking like worst case scenario. Oh wait, no, I'm wrong. She does say something. She says, I'm scared he's gonna do something. And I think she's saying like, I'm scared he's gonna like hurt Sally, like physically, or maybe even kill her. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you just never know about, when you see abusive relationships, you don't know what's going to happen. And so I really feel for her, because I feel like if that was real life, that would be a really tough situation to be in. And I talked about this in my last podcast episode, because it's like, what do you do? Like, that's not your relationship. And she's obviously so much younger than Sally and Barry. So it's like, is that really her place to try to say anything or to try to step in? Maybe not. I don't know. But also, she, really likes Sally. She looks up to her. And I think anybody would want to be like, well, I want her to be okay. I don't want her to be with somebody who's not good for her, because we already know that she was previously in a bad marriage. So we don't want to see her continuing that cycle. And that's exactly what she's doing, unfortunately. So I don't know what's going to happen there. And I'm kind of afraid too, if she tries to talk to Sally about it, that Sally might get upset with her about it. I think that could rub her the wrong way, or I don't know. I just feel like whatever she tries to do, it's probably going to backfire on her, unfortunately. And then there's another thing too that Natalie says. She goes, she says something about how Barry treats Sally and sees Sally as a star. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the whole reason why Barry and Sally are together. Like that just one sentence literally is why they are together. And again, it's like kind of funny, but it's really sad because it's like if Barry did not see Sally as a star, she would not have been with her, or she wouldn't have gotten with him. And again, it goes back to like narcissism and your own ego and her trying to feed that. And like if you watch the first two seasons, you know how desperate she was to be a star, to be an actress and stuff. And because Barry was like, yeah, you're the best actress I've ever seen, and you're so good and you deserve all this stuff, that was what made her like want to be with him. And I think for Barry, the reason why he's with her is I really feel like it just comes down to like infatuation. I definitely don't think, I mean, I think he cares about her, but it's not like real love. And you wouldn't treat somebody like that if you really loved him, I don't believe. And so I definitely think for both of them, it's like they're seeing what they want to see with each other, and it's not real. So again, that's not going to end up well. That's not going to end up good. And I said before too, I really feel like I want Sally to break up with Barry, but then I'm also kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen if she does that. Like if that's going to, tip him over the edge again, I don't know. Um, but I'm hoping that she comes to her senses and is like, you know what? I got my TV show going. I got all this other stuff going. Like, do I really need to be in a relationship, especially with somebody who is really not like present? They're not there with me, and they're not he's just not a good partner, period. um so I don't know if she'll see that, because she's kind of regressing now, and I don't know how far back she's going to regress this season, or if there's going to come a point where she kind of like wakes up and is like, okay, hold on, like there is something off with Barry and I need to get away from him. I don't know, you guys can tell me what you think's going to happen. Maybe that's just wishful thinking. Maybe she's just going to stay with him and deal with his craziness. I don't know. um but yeah, that storyline with Katie and everything is besides Hank and Cristobal is what's really like capturing me, I feel like, the season. Because I'm really, I guess, excited, but also just really anxious to see like where this is gonna go, and what's gonna happen to her character specifically. um and so just to rewind back with Sally, so she's doing this, her and Katie are doing this press junket, but the focus is mainly on Sally because obviously she's the main character and this is her TV show. So this is her first time doing like interviews and everything. And they have this like funny scene, and I kind of wanted to point out like some of the funny scenes, because I feel like everything else that I talk about is just really dark and really sad. And I'm sure some people listening to this are like, why would I want to watch this? This sounds horrible. But there are some funny moments or some funny scenes in it. It's not just all like bad. It's not just all doom and gloom is what I'm saying. But there's a funny scene where Sally is, again, you can tell she's clearly nervous to do an interview, and she's waiting for the person to come in, and then they come in, they're like, hey Sally girl, like how are you doing, like acting like they know her or something. And all they end up doing is asking her a couple questions, and then I think they ended off with like, who do you think the next Batman should be? It's either Batman or Spider-Man, but basically it has nothing to do with her TV show, has nothing to do with what they're talking about. And you could tell it throws Sally off, and she's just kind of like, I don't know. And then she says, I think she says like Ben Mendelsohn or something like that, which is the name of the episode. And so I definitely feel like that was like an inside joke between Bill and like the other writers to put that in there, because they probably experienced that themselves. I believe Bill has openly talked about like how um, when he was doing press junkets for It Chapter 2, like how he kept getting asked the same questions over and over again, and it was just very like repetitive. And so I'm sure a lot of other actors go through that, and so that was definitely sort of like an inside joke, but it was funny as an audience to see that, because you could tell Sally was just like what. like this is what a press junket is, like, is what's the point of doing this? It's just like, you're just going to be asking me the same questions over and over again, and like, what is this really doing? But that part was funny. So there is some comedy still left in here. It's just very like little, like it's like little moments that you get and you're like, oh wait, that was funny. You're like, I forgot that the show wasn't super serious all the time. um but yeah, and then going back to Fuchs, because like I said, Fuchs was not in the last episode. At least I don't think he was. No, he was not. I don't think he was. So we're seeing him again, and he's kind of, making his way back into the story because he is, y'all, he just cannot let Barry go. Like, Fuchs, get it together. Let that man go. All he has to do is just stay in Chechnya, stay far, far away from Barry and everything that's going on in LA, and he would be fine. And yet he's still like, he just can't let it go. He just cannot let it go. Like, he has to make Barry suffer, or he has to like confront him or do something, like something to hurt him the way the way he's been hurting. And that's just a lesson right there, that like, trying to get revenge on people or trying to hold grudges against people, that just ends up hurting you. And even though we haven't seen what's going to happen yet, clearly whatever it is, it's not going to be good for Fuchs. It's probably not going to be good for Barry either, but it's going to backfire on him, I'm pretty sure. And so, yeah, it just, and again, goes back to those same themes of like people being narcissistic, people wanting to feed their egos, not just making it all about them. It's like me, 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 me. And all of these characters are kind of like that in some way, shape, or form, or even in like little bits you see that and you're just like, why are you doing this? Why? You're like messing up things for yourself at this point. So that's kind of where Fuchs is at. And the way the episode ends is with Fuchs. And like I said, that to me is definitely like foreshadowing of what's going to happen. And I don't know if it's going to happen next episode. I don't know if this is just kind of going to string itself along throughout the rest of the season. But either way, Fuchs he's going to come back and he's going to try to go after Barry. Is pretty much the main thing that we get from the ending. So the ending, we see Fuchs with I don't know her name. I'm not sure if that's his girlfriend. If you guys know, let me know. I don't know if that's his girlfriend or just somebody that he likes. But the lady is telling him this like tale. She's telling him like the story, and it's supposed to help him to like get him to see that like, hey, it's better to choose, kindness and to just choose forgiveness than to try to, get revenge or to try to, be cruel or whatever. And obviously he does not. I mean, he listens to the story and he pretty much twists it into his own little like thing. I don't know, but she tells him this folktale story, and then from that he's kind of just like, okay, like he gets the idea of like, yeah, I'm gonna go after Barry. Like I'm gonna make him pay. We don't know exactly what he's gonna do, but we know that he's gonna do something. And so that's how the episode ends. And I swear to God, I felt like with this episode, I felt like I blinked and it was over. And I was like, this episode was like 5 minutes. I think the episode actually was a little bit shorter than the first two, but I swear it went by so fast. I was like, that's crazy. So the way they ended it though, it kind of feels like a cliffhanger to me, and like I said, it's like foreshadowing for sure. So again, two very significant shots where I feel like the way it started, the opening shot, and then the last one, and then I think just going into next episode, we're going to see if Fuchs is going to come back to the States right then and there, or if it's going to happen later on. I don't know. And of course, Barry does not know that Fuchs is going to come after him. So I'm sure that will be a shocker for him. I'm sure that'll be a surprise. And then, yeah, I'm not sure like what Hank is going to do about that, because I think, what was that, the first episode or the second episode where he was getting questioned by the police, and he was basically saying like, yeah, this guy was the one that did the shooting, and he's pointing to Fuchs. So I'm like, if he comes back to the States, like, aren't the cops gonna get him or so? I don't know what's gonna happen. So you guys can let me know what you think. I just like hearing other people's theories and other people's perspectives on these episodes, because I feel like there's things that you can miss if you're not really paying attention, or there's people that will make connections to like previous episodes or even previous seasons. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. And so, yeah, like, don't be afraid to to comment on my Facebook page, or even follow me on Twitter, because like I said, that's where I usually talk about Barry. My username is Primadonna Girls, PrimadonnaGurls. I know it's a long username, sorry, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm always on Twitter to talk about Barry, so you could definitely like at me or message me, or if you want to be on the podcast, like reach out to me and let me know so that we can like scream about this show, because this is definitely, I mean, besides Twitter, this is definitely my outlet to be able to talk about the show and hopefully, reach people who are fans of the show, or if they, if you don't know about the show, hopefully you're like, hey, this sounds interesting, I'll check it out, and then you'll have something new to watch. But yeah, like please come and talk to me about like what you think is going to happen. It's not so much that I want to try to figure out what like everything that's going to happen throughout the season, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's just from being anxious, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to figure out like what's gonna happen with this character. What's the storyline gonna be, and how is this gonna go? But then that also makes it exciting, because we really don't know. I think like we think we know sometimes, and then something's gonna happen. We're gonna be like, oh my god, I wasn't expecting that. Like even the first episode, I was like, what? I was like, this is not real. I'm like, this is not really happening. And I was actually just talking to one of my friends who I haven't spoken with in a while, and she watches Barry, and she's like, you guys, this season is really dark. And I'm like, yeah, you think? Like, that's kind of an understatement. And that's literally what everybody has been saying. Every article that you see about the show now is like, Barry is darker and grittier, or darker than ever. And it's all dark. Like everybody's just like, this season is so dark. That's like the only word that people have been using to describe the season. But it's true though. It is, like I said, they came out swinging with the first episode. And what's funny to me is just how like surprised people, and I kind of touched on this a little bit in I think one of my other episodes, just how surprised people are that Barry is showing his violence. I think we were warned about this ahead of time, that Barry is probably not going to be somebody that you like this season. And I think a lot of people probably didn't take that to heart. They're kind of just like, okay, yeah, whatever. But now we're actually seeing it, and people are going, I really love Barry, and now I don't know what to do with those feelings, because I really loved him the first two seasons, and now I just can't, because how can you excuse his behavior in the last two episodes? You can't. There's no way you can't. You cannot. You just can't. Like whatever excuse you have for him, it just doesn't work. Even if you say, well, oh, the man needs help and he clearly has like a mental problem or whatever, like, no, you can't. Like I can't even defend him anymore. But for me, like the surprise really is in how fast things are happening. Like I said, with episode one, the way they had Kusno confronting Barry already, I was like, excuse me, this is episode one. Slow your roll. We're just getting back into the season. You're already doing too much. So for me, that's where I'm just like, oh my God, like where certain scenes happen. And I'm like, is this real? I was literally saying that out loud as I was watching. Even like when Barry yelled at Sally, I was like, is this real? Like, is this really happening? Or is this a daydream? Or is this somebody like, thinking about this? And it's like, no, all this stuff is really happening. So for me, that's kind of been the main shocker. I think more so than Barry showing his violence, or Barry being kind of like, you could just tell where he just like literally does not care anymore. I feel like that was probably like bound to happen. Even if it didn't happen in season 3, it would have happened in like season 4, or however long the show keeps going. It would have happened eventually, and it was going to happen eventually to where he was going to have outburst with people that he cares about, meaning like Kusino and Sally. There's no way you can be that type of violent person, have all that rage inside of you and kill people, and not, that's like to where it's not going to show. Like, yeah, he hit it very well the first two seasons. He was able to kind of, let people see what he wanted to see, but eventually that's going to come out. I don't care like how smart you think you are, or how manipulative you could be. Like that's going to come out eventually. Just it's inevitable. And so we're just seeing that now. And I think just for a lot of people, it's just like, oh my God, like, whoa, this is not the same Barry that I knew last season. I'm like, well, it kind of is. It's just, I think he's just showing his true colors more. I think really what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the gist of the episode. I think Next episode, the preview was like Barry walking in a parking lot, and then he's going up to this box, which is like a bomb. That bomb is what was I about to say? A different name is what Hank is giving him to. I think he's supposed to be blowing up the Bolivians. I think we'll see, I guess. But basically, like I mentioned before, I knew that like Barry and Hank were gonna end up working together again, even though Hank was like mad at him in the beginning. He was just like, you killed all my men and now you're trying to come to me for a job. But now he's like, okay, actually I have a job for you, so here you go. And the job is, I think he's pretty much doing that so like he can kind of get rid of Cristobal's people so that they can be together. And again, don't think that's gonna work. And if it does work, it's not gonna be like happy for long. So there's that. But I guess we'll see how it plays out next episode on Sunday. Like I said, you guys can watch it on HBO or HBO Max. Please get into the show. I know some people are like, no, I can't get into it because it's just too much, which I understand that. That's fine. But if you haven't seen it, just at least watch like a couple episodes. I think it'll kind of pull you in because you're gonna be like, what? Like, what is going on, and why is this happening, and what's gonna happen? It's definitely one of those shows where like it'll keep you on the edge of your seat. So just be prepared for that. And yeah, like I said before, if you guys ever want to talk to me about the show, don't be afraid to hit me up. Or if you'd like to be a guest on my podcast, let me know. And I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Let me check my notes real quick because I did kind of write down some of the things that I wanted to talk about. But I feel like I pretty much hit kind of, I guess, the main things of what I feel like happened in this episode and how it's setting up for episode 4 and the rest of the season. So yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up there because you guys know I'll sit here and like talk about it all day and it'll just be, I'm sure you guys don't want to hear my voice for that long. But before I go, I want to circle back around to my sponsorship with Streann Media. So I'm using their Streann Studio software to create this podcast. I really didn't know anything about Streann Media or Streann Studio prior to this podcast, so it's been pretty cool to kind of like get to know like how I can use their features to do my podcast. And I really never thought I would be doing a podcast. So again, this is all new to me, but I'm glad that I'm able to use the Streann Studio software and because they make it so much easier for me. I think if I was just doing a podcast on my own, it definitely wouldn't look like this. And I wouldn't have known like the first step of even how to create a podcast. So thanks to them for sponsoring this podcast and just for making it easier for me. Again, if you guys want to create your own podcast or if you would like to go live, you could definitely do it yourself. Just go to studio.streann.com and you just need an email and then you can get your code and you're in. And you could pretty much do exactly what I'm doing. You could probably do it even better than me if you wanted to. And just let me know if you guys use Streann Studio. You could tag me or you can message me. And I also recommend tagging Streann Studio, or I should say Streann Media, so that they could see that you're using as well. Because I'm pretty sure they want to know, that their software is reaching people and that content creators are able to use their software. So yeah, I feel like I've been talking a lot. So for the third time, I'm going to wrap it up and I will see you guys next Tuesday, same time at 1 p.m. We're going to talk about the next episode. And again, I don't know, because this episode was so calm, I feel like it might not be that way next episode. So we'll see. You'll be able to tell like once I start talking about it, if I'm like, like all over the place, then like it was a crazy episode. But I'm going to sign off. Peace out to you guys, and I'll see you guys next week.